Heroes are role models, defined by their extraordinary achievements, and 2013's water hero is no exception. The Santa Barbara Association of Realtors has modeled exemplary water conservation efforts by replacing their idle lawn with a beautiful rainwater demonstration garden.
Well, I think most people realize we're kind of in a drought around here. And every day I'd look out my window and say, look at this nice grass out here. And I'd watch the sprinklers come on 3 times a week and realize no one ever plays on that grass. And said, so why should we as a commercial building have grass? It just didn't make sense to me. So I said, we need to be doing something different here.
The Association of Realtors saw value in a landscape that adds to the environment rather than being a draw on it. Their old lawn was a high consumer of resources such as water, fossil fuels, fertilizer, and maintenance time. And the Realtors understood that curb appeal is not necessarily a lawn. Native and water-wise gardens are beautiful and they add value to a property without being a depletion of resources.
For years, the Santa Barbara Association of Realtors was among the many other commercial buildings with unused grass on their property. However, high water bills and a flooded basement encouraged them to pursue a more sustainable solution.
Well, we had a couple issues. One is, keeping the water on the property instead of having it go down the street, washing off the parking lot and out into the street. We also had a basement flooding issue. So we weren't sure what was happening, but learned because our previous landscaper let the sprinklers run for 24 hours and our basement flooded, we realized we have a French drain out here that actually pushes the water down into the sump from the ground. And all of our downspouts were aiming right outside of that area. They go down the French drain and into the basement area. So we've now, with Daniel Wilson's help, directed all of our downspouts out to the front, put in bioswales, and now we can just recirculate that water down into the ground and not flood our basement and help the water table here in Santa Barbara at the same time.
What we did essentially was we rehung some of the gutters. So instead of pitching towards the side yard, we pitched them towards the front yard. We manifolded a few of them together in the side yard, and then we ran them out in a drain out to the front yard where they essentially could spread out on the landscape, what used to be the lawn here, spread out, slow down, sink in, and give as many opportunities as possible for the water that fell on the roof, that's now stormwater, to actually seep down in, penetrate, and absorb into the ground, which also helps the groundwater flows for Mission Creek, which is just behind us a couple blocks.
This demonstration garden features a variety of native plants, as well as a dry creek bed that will act as a natural filter for pollutants when it rains.
I mean, at first when I said I want to put in drought-tolerant landscaping, I had some of my board members saying, oh sure, rocks and cactus. I said, no, that's not what it's going to be. It'll be native plantings, it'll be things that should naturally be growing in this kind of environment. And now that it's in, they're all bragging about the fact that they've made the decision to do this. So it's gone very well, and every time I'm looking out the window, it seems like there's somebody just stopping and looking and saying, wow, look at that. We've got some new and exciting. And I'm not sure if people are hearing about it from the realtors and intentionally coming by, but I have people sometimes drive up, stop, take a look, and then get back in their car and drive away. So they're intentionally coming here just to take a look at it.
In a very low rainfall situation, the small amount of water that comes off the roof that potentially picks up the first pollutants that have maybe been sitting on the roof for 8 months during summer and fall, the bird droppings, the exhaust, the leaves, whatever else is on the roof, that little bit is able to actually infiltrate into a shallow swale that's close to the surface that has a lot of oxygen. There's a lot of bacteria and fungi in that top layer of the soil that actually eats all the pollutants. And so it's like a little mini wastewater treatment plant that's totally not technical, no batteries, no power, no supervision needed. Essentially just sort of works on its own. And then in the really heavy rain situations where there's a lot of water and that water is not polluted because it's raining heavily, there's overflow areas where there's what we see is this cobble swale, but underneath in 2 of the areas is actually some pretty substantial basins that go down approximately 2 feet that are lined with weed block fabric so weeds don't grow in them, and they're filled with really coarse cobble to act as a large volumetric chamber, like a leaky tank. So water can go in like a rainwater cistern, but it leaks right out the bottom and absorbs into the soil. And then what we did is we planted the plants next to them, more water-loving plants next to the edges that actually could tap the roots down into the more moist soil conditions and therefore use less supplemental water through the course of the year.
In addition to substantially lowering water and resource consumption, the garden has also considerably reduced maintenance.
So the maintenance of the old lawn that we removed was once a week mowing, quarterly fertilizing, typically with petrochemicals, and weekly hauling of green waste and disposal and taking away. And what we're looking at now is maybe quarterly coming in here and spending a couple hours just doing a little bit of nip and tuck pruning for shaping. So realistically, we're probably reducing the overall energy that goes into maintenance of this landscape by maybe 99%.
By replacing their lawn with a water-wise landscape, the Santa Barbara Association of Realtors hopes to educate and inspire their clients to do the same, while also providing a great rainwater demonstration garden for the community.
There's some things that we need to do too to let them know that there's alternatives to grass when you do need kids playing on them. There's different plantings. We just recently put a backyard in with diamondia as an example. And we were out playing football on it the other day with the grandkids, and it's holding up just fine. But it's going to take maybe 1/3 the water that grass would take. So we're hoping people catch on and they realize that. And there's certain areas that, hey, it makes sense. If you got kids that want to play soccer, put them some grass for them. But how many people around here have kids playing on the grass on these beautiful manicured lawns that they're running their lawnmowers every week, using that fuel and throwing out that pollution, and then just taking the water. Boy, I drive by Lake Cachuma and I'm thinking, how in the heck can we be all watering our grass with this wonderful potable water we have?
Not only is this potentially a demonstration garden and interpretive educational site for a cross-section of realtors throughout the south coast of Santa Barbara, but there's an international school next door. This is a busy downtown corridor. There's a lot of projects happening, past, present, and future. So with the amount of pedestrian foot traffic that comes through here, the cars that pass by all the time, and then certainly the realtors that are members here of the Association of Realtors, this is just such a phenomenal opportunity to really share a good message that we can save water and still have a beautiful landscape.
Water conservation is a way of life here in Santa Barbara. Because we live in a semi-arid climate, the water we save we rely on for the dry years. Each one of us can make a difference when it comes to saving water, and for many of us, the biggest difference is right in your front yard.